And Baruch Hashem, it's a big day because today is the passing of one of the great tzaddikim, one of the greatest righteous people in the world. And we have a custom that we talk about them on the day that they passed away. Not just to remember, but also as a way that, the way it goes is when a person passes away, Hashem decided that that day is the day they need to pass away. They have to go back up to heaven. But it's a whole process where the soul slowly dislodges from the body through different stages and becomes less attached with this world as it goes up to the higher worlds to take its reward. Ultimately, the reward is going to be in the world to come. But even in this world, before the world to come, after death, after 120 years, we should all have long lives until 120 years. B'ezrat Hashem, amen. Even in this world, there is this moving up. However, on the day of the yurtzeit, the soul comes back down, and the energy of the soul is very present here in this world. So we're able to tap into that and draw from that energy and to become imbued with that. So today is the yurtzeit of the Yismach Moshe. Yismach Moshe, he was one of the great students in the lineage of the Baal Shem Tov. And I just want to say a few things about him today in a few minutes, that we can start to get aroused, that it's also not coincidence that his yurtzeit comes out right now on Kof Ches, Tammuz Koyach, the Tammuz, the strength of Tammuz. Really a day before we begin the new month. This Shabbos is Rosh Chodesh Av, the month of Menachem Av, of consolation, of really getting to that level of needing Beis HaMikdash, of needing Mashiach Tzidkenu. B'ezrat Hashem, it should come now, mamish. And everything about the month that's coming up is all tied into Mashiach. And the yurtzeit of the Yismach Moshe right before Rosh Chodesh Av is like the preparation to go into Av. The spiritual energy we need to successfully go into the 9 days that are coming in the whole month, and it's ultimately 61 days from now is Rosh Hashanah, which we'll get to, is this preparation of the deepest desire that Mashiach should come, mamish. Everything about the Yismach Moshe's life is about Mashiach. Everything. His entire life, his entire yearning, everything he spoke about was Mashiach. If he would wake up from sleep, he would first, the Mashiach come. If you heard a noise of Mashiach, like anything, and it was a known thing by him that everything was, he's here. If you would do that, he's here. We'll get back to this, but he slept with a makel, he slept with his walking stick beside his bed. That's a famous thing that many of the tzaddikim do, that if Mashiach came in the middle of the night, that he'd have his stick ready and he'd be able to, like, the stick is a very symbolic thing of Mashiach coming, like we're going to see in a moment. There was another tzaddik that was like this, who was born right at the cusp of when Yismach Moshe passed away, and you probably know who that, you probably know my name. His name was the Chavetz Chaim. The Chavetz Chaim spoke tremendously about Mashiach. It was in fervor of Mashiach, especially at the end of his life. And the Chavetz Chaim kept a famous suitcase under his bed that had his clothing that he would wear when Mashiach came. Even for you and I, what are you guys going to wear when Mashiach comes? You haven't. You got it picked out, you know. Like, if we're not thinking about that, that's a problem. Like, what Mashiach comes right now? B'ezrat Hashem. What will you wear? You've got your nicest digs.
Yes.
No, Shabbos dig. This is a weekday dig. Bekisha, Streimels. You know, it's got to be fancy. Mashiach. It's got to be nice stuff. So the Chavetz Chaim was like, even the amount of time for him to pack a suitcase was too much time. That he had it packed. That Mashiach comes, it's nicest clothes, it's in a bag. I don't know what else. What would you put in your Mashiach suitcase?
Toothbrush.
You think about it right now. Toothbrush. Let's keep the teeth clean from Mashiach's here. That's right. So the Yismach Moshe lived with this fervor, and everything about his life was b'li hesach hadas, without interruption from Mashiach. I'm going to read you a language that his grandchildren wrote, who are gedolim in Torah, and we're not exaggerating a single word. Godel tikfasei shel bias Mashiach tzidkenu, the great yearning for Mashiach, lo yafsik, hagilian letar kamoi shahaya. It would not be enough space inside of this, inside the parchment that we're writing in, to be able to explain how much our grandfather yearned and yearned for Mashiach. His mind did not leave for 1 second for that deep desire and yearning for the coming of the Redeemer. For not even 1 second, his entire life. It was one endless yearning. And this is all the preparation of us getting into the time of Av and the 9 days. It's a known thing that many of the tzaddikim, the way they yearn for Mashiach is much more private. We know that many of the tzaddikim, they do things quietly without people knowing about them. You know, what you know about Rav Zucker is like probably 1% of what's really going on. You know, waking up, who knows what time, doing things all sorts of hours. He was just telling me one thing about going to see the Amshon of a Rebbe at a Kiddush Levana, and it's like you have to get there like 3:45 in the morning, right before, and it's like 5 hours long, and the tzaddikim and Itchimars, by the way, at the Kaisel Levinet at about 3 in the morning. This thing like that are happening that we don't even know, and he doesn't say anything, but all of a sudden you, by the way, it's the best time to go to the Western Wall. 3, 4 in the morning, like before all the Nates people get there for their Nates minyan, after all the guys that have gone to bed because it's already, they felt the tzaddikim slip in at those hours. I'm not, I can't reveal too much, but that's where it's all happening. That's where they come. Besides the fact there's very special things happening in the upper worlds at those hours. So the Yismach Moshe would yearn and yearn and yearn, and he was unlike the other tzaddikim that would hide things. The Yismach Moshe just couldn't hold it back. Everything was about Mashiach. Everything. And they asked him about this. They said, why is it so revealed for you? Why is it so in the open? So he said a famous line, is Eina Doime Shmiel Re'iyah. You can't compare hearing about something to seeing something. When you hear about something, you hear the news, you heard it, and you hear it, but it's not like you were there. If you were there, whatever you saw in the news doesn't compare to you actually seeing it. I don't know if you've ever been to, you were at an event that ended up being somehow written up in the news, or something happened, right? You were, yeah?
The tree caught on fire.
And then you wrote and you saw the way that it was written. So it's not quite the same as when you're there. When you're there, it's that. So the Yismach Moshe said he knew that he was in the world 3 times before this incarnation, and one of the times he was the soul of Jeremiah the prophet. So all the other neshamas, all the other souls, they know about the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. They heard about it, and therefore they're mourning it, and they're yearning for Mashiach. That he would say, I was there. My soul saw it go aflame. It saw the burning of the tree. It saw everything on fire. I saw it. I can't hold it back. I need Mashiach. It was so powerful in him. The Yismach Moshe was known one other nakuda. We might think to ourselves, how are we going to bring Mashiach? If he didn't do it, and everything he was doing was for Mashiach, how are we going to do it? So the answer is, Saint Simeyer says so beautifully here, is that it's a very important cloud to remember this. Mashiach coming is not, he didn't do it, so how am I going to pull it off? What all the tzaddikim did, especially Yismach Moshe, who gave his whole life for Mashiach, was that they built it up, that we're now standing on the shoulders of giants. We're like a little, we're so close, we're right there. So you have to keep that in mind. They built it all up, and we're like the last drop of the whole thing. There was one time the Yismach Moshe, it was Rosh Hashanah. And it's a known thing that before the shofar blows is a very, very, very big time. It's a time that tzaddikim will be crying and wailing, and you can't even imagine what goes on. And they take like 5,000 mikvahs, and it's like Zoyars you read, and then doing Kavanas. The whole year depends on blowing the shofar. It's like, that's it. Shofar is it. And there was one time in the preparation for the shofar, so the Yismach Moshe was privy to go up to what's called the Shvili de Rekia, to go up into the higher spheres, to get a glimpse of what was going on up there. So what did he see was happening at that moment? He saw that all the nations of the world, the good ones and the evil ones, have a ministering angel that is going in front of Hashem to ask for a good year for the nation. All the nations in the world have this. And Mashiach was also there. And he was pleading that he wants to come and save humanity and save Klal Yisrael. And when the other ministering angels would see Mashiach come, they would embarrass him and make fun of him. Oh, all the years you haven't been able to come and save Klal Yisrael, humanity. Oh, you think again this year? The embarrassment, the busha that Mashiach didn't. And the Yismach Moshe saw this and he started crying and crying, and he said, it can't be. It cannot be. He came back down to reality. He said, it could not be that Mashiach doesn't come. It can't be. We have to bring him to save Mashiach, the embarrassment that he's experiencing from all the angelic angels and the ministering angels of all the nations that are laughing at Mashiach. That this has to be the year that he finally comes. It's a known thing, it says about the Yismach Moshe, that if he knew that Mashiach wouldn't come in his lifetime, he would cease to live. If he knew that the fact became clear to him that that Mashiach would not come, it was the known thing that he wouldn't be able to live. And that was concealed from him because he literally would not be able to have lived. He did everything all the time. He was yearning and totally in an open way. Everything was about Mashiach. Everything, all Mashiach, all the Torahs, all men talk about Mashiach the whole time. He's the entry, the going into Menachem Av. There was one time during Hakafis. Hakafis is what we do on Sukkot, we also do on Simchas Torah. What's the Hakafis? When you go around, on Sukkot you go around the bima, and what's on the bima? Sefer Torah. Or someone's sitting there with the Sefer Torah, and we do encirclements, deep secrets like the 7 encirclements of Jericho, and all the walls come crumbling down. Very deep secrets in all these Hakafis. On Simchas Torah, you don't go around the Torah, you go around with the Torah. And everyone's dancing, and you're doing Hakafis. Make sure to go in the right direction. It has to be, Jews go anti-clockwise, because we're not down by time, we're above time. So we go anti-clockwise. That's why all of our dancing, if somebody ever tries to switch it, try to switch it back. If it's a little bit of a quick shtick switch, it's okay. But if they really want to keep it going the other way, say no, and push it in a sweet, gentle way. But okay, we're gonna go the opposite direction.
Is clockwise the halachic direction? Because clocks aren't they more recent?
We go to the right. That is the halacha. We turn to the right.
Chesed.
That's right, chesed. So when you're going this way, leading with the right. The right is leading. It's a question with Hagabah how you should do it. Should you do Hagabah like this, because then you're turning to the right, or should you do Hagabah like this, because you're leading with your right? Okay, we'll leave that discussion for another time.
Should you go one way and then back the other?
Oh, some say yes. You do a quick little, 1, 2, both directions. So there was one time it was Hakafis on Simchas Torah. And on everybody knows that each of the 7 Hakafis correspond to one of the shepherds. The first Hakaf is Avraham Avinu, and Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, and then Yosef, and then David. So on the 4th Hakafa, in the shul of the Yismach Moshe, all of a sudden he saw none other than Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu came to the shul for the Hakafas. And the Yismach Moshe said, Baruch haba, Moshe Rabbeinu. Welcome Moshe Rabbeinu to the Hakafas. which also shows you the kedusha that number one, he could see Moshe Rabbeinu. First, that Moshe Rabbeinu comes to your hakafas. Two, that you could see Moshe Rabbeinu, and three, that he didn't disintegrate by seeing Moshe. I think if Moshe Rabbeinu walked into this room right now, we would disintegrate. The kedusha would be like looking at the sun. Even in the generation in the midbar, he had to wear a mask. It was crazy, crazy. So he said to Moshe Rabbeinu, he said, Moshe Rabbeinu, please, you go right now, and you be poil ois the Mashiach should come. You do everything. That's the first thing he asked Moshe. It wasn't like, Moshe, tell me a nice shtickle Torah. What did it look like? Like what was Har Sinai like, Moshe? The first thing he said is, Moshe, you get Mashiach here. And he said, you'll be my testimony. You'll be my you'll testify for me. That you know I never left, even a kutzah shel yud, one iota away from Torah's Moshe, from the Torah of Moses. I'm also Moshe, Yismach Moshe, Moshe Rabbeinu. I never left one bit. You tell God that there's somebody in the world right now that never deviated one iota from the Torah of Moshe. And in all this merit, bring Mashiach already. We need it. There's a well-known story about the Yismach Moshe, that he was the Rav, he was the head of a city, of a community, a big community, for 18 years. And at a certain point, there were members, maybe for political reasons it seems, they wanted to remove him from the office and install, somebody else. Maybe it sounds familiar. And what happened? So they came to try to take him out. And he said to them a very interesting thing. He said, I want you to think, over the last 18 years, was there ever one fire in our city? Was there ever one abducted or missing child? Was there ever one tragedy? In all the time that I was the Rav here, he was saying this in total humility. He was and they did an accounting, and they realized that actually nothing, not even one tragic thing had happened while in his tenure there. And he was explaining to them that through the merit of having the tzaddik there, he's a shomer. He guards the safety of all those that are in that place. And I don't know if you want to, remove that. And they understood very quickly that they should keep him there. See, Mara says a beautiful thing. There's a few pieces of mussar for us to think about. One is, when you're around tzaddikim, you have to realize there's a big shmira of being close to tzaddikim, holding on to tzaddikim, that they're guarding us more than we can imagine. They're a shomer for us. And furthermore, that each and every one of us, all of you guys, to know that when you're doing Torah and mitzvahs, you are all being shomers. You're also protecting the people around you. Not just, the tzaddik, but every one of you, amet kulam tzaddikim, the whole Jewish people, the tzaddikim, amet kulam tzaddikim, that you're all creating shmira.
Is it geographical, or where in Israel our parents are in the United States?
It's yes geographical, and also it's metaphysical. Anybody that you're spiritually connected to will feel. That's why I personally try as much as I can to speak to a certain tzaddik in Borough Park, the Lulav Rebbe, Rav Melech's brother, that I try to speak to as much as I can, and we speak sometimes, and I just feel like that the tzaddik is thinking of me. There's a certain, he's asking about my kids and the family, and how's everything going, how's the house, and what floor is it on, is it hard for your wife, and just that I'm on the mind of the tzaddik. There's a feeling there's a certain goodness, there's a protection there. A couple of the very, very quick little nakudas. It says about the Yismach Moshe that he knew one of his incarnations was he was in the generation of Korach, in the desert, and he knew which tent he was in. You could describe what it looked like in the desert, and they asked him, so which side of the machlokes were you on? Were you on Moshe's side or Korach's side? And he says, I was on neither. And they were a little bit surprised at the answer. They said, what do you mean? You weren't on Moshe's side? So he gave them really two-part answer. He said, number one, if you would have known who Korach is, not so simple. Not so simple. That's why I'm not into this Korach bashing. Don't be very careful. Korach was a big person. Korach was a very big person. We speak about him like, okay, Chazal did bring out points for us. But Korach was a big person. And it says, Tzadik Katara Yifrach, Sefer Tevis Korach. In the end, Korach is a big Tzadik, not Pasha. And the other likut he was giving people to think about is that you go with Moshe or you go with Korach, you're still involved in machlokes. He was saying, stay out. I wasn't in the machlokes. I didn't take a side. I stayed out of machlokes. Machlokes, especially this time of year, when it's heating up, especially the 9 days, I'm giving people a warning. All of humanity, stay out of machlokes. Stay out of fighting, infighting. This is a very auspicious time not to do that. And Yismach Moshe wanted to reveal this to us, that it should come out on his yurtzeit as we go into Av, and everything is heating up. There was many things about how he ate. He would eat like he was in the mud of Shmon Esrei. Sometimes they would give him his food. He would eat a little bit of a moitzi, and then he would go into like the Vekas for a couple hours, and he'd come out of it, and he'd say, no, bring my machroni. He'd say, he didn't have the Suda yet. He's like, okay, no, fine, bring the Suda. Sometimes it was the opposite. He would eat our Ganz's Suda, then go into the Vekas, and he would wake up and bring the Suda. He said, we just had like a 12-course Suda. He says, oh, bring my machroni. He was mamish Mashiach dik all the time. One more nakuda he would say is just be careful with your time. Your time is valuable. He brought the same mashal of the Pelayoyitz in the Chavetz Chaim. If you saw a guy throwing suitcases of millions of dollars into the river, and you think this guy's a Meshuggah. His mom is a Meshuggah. What is he doing? You're crazy. You can help the whole world. You could save the world with it. You can do great things, build up the whole world with that money. What are you doing? Throwing it away. So he said, a guy that wastes time is even a bigger Meshuggah, because we know that you have to give up all of your wealth not to break Shabbos. Kol hain sheba'olim. So a person, time, mitzvahs, you never get back. Your mitzvahs is everything. So he would make a kal v'chaimer from this. He would say, keep your time is so valuable. Torah and mitzvahs. This world is not long. This world goes by like this. Rabbi say, how fast did the last 5 years go by in your life? In a second. I remember things 10 years ago, it was like 2 seconds ago. There's not many 10 years, 12 of them, to be exact, of your whole life. And a number of them are already gone. It's fat, and it only speeds up as you get older. So Rabbi said we should be zeichel. Let's take some of the messages on our level, the Yismach Moshe, of the Heilige Tzaddik, to be able to prepare ourselves for Menachem Av, to prepare ourselves for the great messianic arrival, to have that yearning, to have our, so to speak, our sticks in our hands. Makelcha biyadcha, like when we left Egypt, we had our sticks in our hand. That at any moment we just want to be ready. We're like, that's why it says about Yirmiyahu, that he said, famous Yusham, that he said, when you bury me with my stick right there. So as soon as I get up from the resurrection of the dead, and my stick, I'm ready to greet Mashiach. It also means the stick means you have to fight the Yetzer Hara, that even when you get up from the resurrection of the dead, and you're on your way to greet Mashiach, you're still going to need a stick to fight up the Yetzer Hara. Until you see Mashiach, we just got to keep fighting and fighting and fighting. Obviously, we're talking about a spiritual battle, fighting the force of evil in the world. We should take the merits, Chus Yagan Aleinu, the Yismach Moshe, and Bezrat Hashem, see Mashahaya, Hushiyeh, Moshe Rabbeinu, Mashiach Tzidkenu, B'mher V'Yemenu, Amen. Kol Tov Chavim.